everybody, and welcome to the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Quickshot Henry, and today I have a very special guest sat beside me. It's somebody that I only had the pleasure of meeting last year, but he knows I'm a massive fanboy, and this is going to be a really fun conversation. I'd like to welcome Nick Tasteless Plott.
I'm excited to be here. Hello, everybody. Super cool to be part of the Esports Awards.
Huge, huge, huge. Of course, we'll get to exactly why you're here later. Quickly brief you and anybody that maybe hasn't seen the podcast before. It's called Origins, because we want to talk a little bit about where you've come from, but the young years. Not when you played or when you started commentating. I want to know, what's your first memory of gaming?
I think my first memory would be getting a Nintendo for Christmas. And eventually, moving into PC games. I was obsessed with RTS games when I was a kid. My first RTS game was Warcraft 2 and Command & Conquer. I remember sneaking through my grandparents' house in the middle of the night to play the game.
How old are you, roughly?
I was in second grade, so super young. And then eventually, my family got broadband. Actually, that's not true. Dial-up internet.
Yes,
Yeah. And then we got StarCraft, and I just became obsessed with playing against people, learning about the game. And then eventually, I had this guy that kept beating me, and he linked me to this website. It was a Korean website. I didn't have any Korean on my PC, so I was like navigating this alien language, clicking through these.
Google Translate didn't exist back then.
Right, exactly. And eventually I found these videos of pros playing in Korea, and it kind of blew my mind. And I realized there's this whole universe on the other side of the world. Like, I'm from Kansas, right? But on the other side of the world, they're putting this on TV, they're competing. And then eventually I got into competitive play and started playing as a pro.
Just before we jump into that, can you help explain to some of our viewers, because there are people that we speak to on a monthly and weekly basis who are colleagues, who are employers, who have no idea how long StarCraft has been around. What time frame is this?
So it's been going on for a quarter of a century, a little bit more than that. So 26 years. So, back then, esports was like a theory in a lot of ways. Like, will this work? Will this succeed? Or is this like a trend that'll go away? And the Koreans, they put this on TV. I mean, this is back in the era of cable, right?
Yeah.
Like when Dan and I moved to Korea, we had to go convince Koreans to put us on a channel, right? It's not like you got Twitch now where you can kind of build your own channel. So, everybody saw that they were really building like a whole ecosystem in Korea, right? There was pro teams and there was matches basically every day, and that kind of launched, especially when StarCraft 2 came out, the sequel to StarCraft 1, that launched this kind of global phenomena of esports, and now it's kind of everywhere, and it's going to continue to grow.
I've spent a lot of time in Korea very recently for League of Legends, and I have come to learn that they actually teach English to students using StarCraft Brood War dialogue. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's how prolific the game is. They're using dialogue from the game to help teach English. You've talked about this long journey. I'm not joking when I say that Nick and Dan, who we'll speak to on another episode, were massive pioneers in the space, and I want to get to that. But if you could look back at your 8-year-old self, 10-year-old self, 20-year-old, 12-year-old self, when did you realize that this was the path you were on? And did you ever imagine you'd be sitting here with the commentary and impact you've had on the industry?
So I knew I loved StarCraft, and I knew I loved games. And I ended up working a couple of shitty jobs. I worked at a candy store in the mall. I worked at a merry-go-round.
How old are you on this? Give me a time.
I was in a candy store for a couple of years.
Okay.
The thing is, I wanted to work in the arcade in the mall, and I couldn't get the job. That was a competitive position. So I would work in the mall at another place, so I could basically go to the arcade and play games. So I worked at a candy shop. I worked at a grocery store bagging groceries. I worked at a merry-go-round that I got fired from after 2 weeks. And then the last job I had before I finally moved into esports was I was painting dorm rooms on my college campus, painting dorm rooms and like moving heavy furniture and like mashing my fingers in doorways. And I thought, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. At the same time, I was starting to pick up these casting gigs. And I remember going to WCG, it was 2005 in Singapore, and kind of looking around. And it's funny, I just looked at all these people working there and I went, oh, these are jobs. Okay, so there's like,
there's a
some of these people got to be making money, right? So maybe there's some kind of an opportunity here. And at that event in Singapore, so I must have been maybe 20 years old, I was with like a lot of like DJ Wheat, who's now from Twitch, Kim Fan, who worked at Blizzard for a long time. All these, I was working with Red Eye, was there. I was working alongside these people, and we were later that night getting some drinks, and we were talking about like, where do you see yourself in, I don't know, 10 years, right? And when they were going around the table, it got to me, and I didn't really have an answer. And somebody said, "You're going to be in Korea casting StarCraft," and everybody started laughing. We're like, "Hey, cheers!"
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then when I said, I went, "That's a good idea." Like I hadn't really thought of that. So I'm sorry. I think I'm rambling.
This is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Because specifically, I'm actually really glad you mentioned WCG 2005. My memory is a little fuzzy on this.
Yeah.
Was that where your brother beat you?
Yeah. There's actually a documentary on YouTube that you can find where they're following Artosis, who's just
he's sitting in the room with us behind the cameras. In case you're wondering where Nick's like, just as an aside.
Yeah.
Could you tell the camera directly just who your brother is? Because I just want to say this.
Yeah.
As somebody who's growing up watching, F you brothers for being so successful, so talented, so ahead of the curve.
Yeah. My little brother's day 9. I think a lot of people don't know that still. People are still surprised.
I literally taught a bunch of colleagues this when we've been filming this week, and I'm like, it's incredible how much talent there is.
So for a period of time, he was the best player in the hemisphere for North America, South America, and so I was kind of doomed when I go to tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Because we would be going to the same places, and he would always beat me. And in my defense, I think Protoss versus Zerg was not that figured out. Yeah, we didn't know how to fast expand yet. So eventually we kind of agreed, okay, like you go up to the qualifier in Chicago and I'll go to the qualifier in Texas. Because I felt like I didn't know if my brother always beats me and is likely to win the USA Championship, I don't know where I fit, right? And so I went to Texas. I ended up in the finals beating this player named Noni, who was a really excellent Protoss player back then. And then we ended up getting, my brother won in the tournament in Chicago, so we both ended up in New York. And they alphabetized the brackets.
No.
So Sean Plott and Nick Plott were paired against each other.
Oh my word.
So I ended up dying again. And then I thought, okay, well, he's probably going to win the tournament. I didn't have much to do, so I offered to cast. The guy that was casting it, like back in this period, they would have one guy that would cast every game.
And a lot of times you didn't even have a video feeds. I mean, depending on how early it was, especially in the early 2000s, the Winamp plugin was what people were listening and watching on. That's what I started with. So I really get that.
Yeah, and so this guy, he knew all the other games, but he didn't know StarCraft.
Wow.
And so they were kind of looking around like, can we get somebody here who can explain this? And I went, okay, I'll do it. And that went okay. And then I basically got a job offer to go to Singapore and then to Italy. And so I was kind of like skipping my college classes. And going, and I wasn't making that much money, but it was like kind of the start of something. And then I got this email, and there was this job position for English casting for, it was mostly going to be Warcraft 3, but it was StarCraft as well. And I was like the only guy that had like this portfolio that has done this stuff. And so that was my last semester of college, so I just dropped out. I moved to Seoul. And then, Artosis moved shortly afterwards, but we were kind of, it's kind of crazy looking back on it, but we were pretty sure when StarCraft 2 came out, something was going to happen.
Yeah.
We didn't know what that was. I guess this is kind of common now as people see a new game coming out and people go, okay, is there going to be opportunities here?
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, right? That's
Again, the industry has grown and changed so dramatically from the GSL days, from the WCG days, the ESWC days when those tournaments were running. Now you see things like Marvel Rivals dropping, you see Deadlock. If you're in the FGC, there's a game coming out called Tokon. People are like, get on it early. Can you get in the beta? Can you start making content stuff? So again, I will say ahead of the curve. Moving to Korea from Kansas, this has to be a culture shock. This has to be this has to be a brave or stupid idea. What did you think at the time?
So I grew up in Kansas. I was actually going to college in Colorado, but I mean, completely different universe.
Not much, but not different to the context.
So my dad's a journalist, and he's lived all over the world. So I used to visit him when he would be in Hong Kong or Thailand. So I the concept of living abroad wasn't totally foreign, and I would see him kind of like in Hong Kong, and I'm like, oh, okay, he lives here. He doesn't really speak Cantonese. Like it's possible. This is a thing, And when you're an American, you have all sorts of people that move to your country, right? So it's not the craziest thing to go somewhere else. But I think I think a lot of people thought, okay, this is like a weird thing that I'm doing, but I can always go back to school and we'll see what happens. But I mean, I'm so glad I did it. Now my wife is Korean. I've lived in Seoul for I think 17 years now. Like I can read and write Korean. I can speak the language. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
All this for a video game, but
It's actually something like the way I think about it, because I'm the same.
Yeah.
My wife's British. I met her through Riot Games, through League of Legends. Got a house. Like I found my personal life because of my professional life.
right, yeah.
And it's like it's an additional gift because I still got to do what I loved.
Yeah.
Do you feel
yeah.
the same way?
100%. And I love Korea. It's funny because a lot of people when they ask me like, oh, like don't you what about the food or don't you miss your family? I'm like, it was really easy, man.
Yeah.
Like it was, I love the culture. Seoul's one of the best cities in the world. The food's really good.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. It was definitely a shock. If you're going to move to a place like Korea, I think the most important thing is to try to acculturate.
Yeah.
And try to not make a new place kind of I'm not trying to Americanize Korea.
I know what you mean. But you need to make a home in your way.
Right. And so I had to kind of Koreanize myself, and that's kind of like you build up this other part of your own identity, and kind of learn the values and the social rules there. But yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a little scary for the first couple of years because, Dan and I were waiting for a game to come out, and it's Blizzard, and you don't know. Like, I was there for 3.5 years before the game came out, maybe 3 years total. And so there was a period where, like, I, didn't have that much work. I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's apartment. But when the game came out, it was pretty crazy because things started to move really fast, right? It was like we were sitting around waiting for this thing to come, and then suddenly it was like, boom, 6 days a week. We're casting all the time. We're getting, okay, do you want to go to a tournament in Sweden? There's another one in New York. Then you're going to be in the Philippines.
I mean, those early years of StarCraft 2, especially before the expansions came out, was incredible to watch as a viewer and a fan. Tournaments were everywhere. It felt like the player base was absolutely gigantic because it's been such a long time since the first game. So quickly, give me an age, roughly. 3 years before StarCraft comes out, you're plus minus how old?
So I moved to Korea right when I turned 23. And then I guess the game came out about when I was 26, 27.
Okay. So you haven't even, respectfully, you haven't even really found yourself or grown up or like, you're still just, in my opinion, until you're 30, you're still figuring out who you are.
100%, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were basically kind of camping out there on this big bet that, again, something's going to happen. I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but there's going to be some kind of opportunity. I don't want to go back to painting dorm rooms and moving furniture. Like I want to try to make this work. And, and then it's, one of the other interesting things that happened was then League of Legends came out. And at the time, we didn't even know, like, can there be more than one esport? We didn't know, right? Yeah. And now I think StarCraft has found its place. It's not the biggest esport, but it has its scene. It's kind of like the tennis of esports or something.
Yep.
But yeah, and then, suddenly then there's CSGO comes out, and all these fighting game tournaments are getting bigger and bigger. And, now we go to Riyadh, and the prize pools are insane, and the production is off the hook, and it's crazy.
I also just think there are so few people that I think can relate, having seen the esports industry develop and grow.
Yeah.
Because it was so isolated and segmented, and you really had 3 or 4 games that was it. And now in the last 10 years, I say since 2010, maybe 2015, things have blown up and changed so dramatically. But listen, I tell you what, I want to bring us back to you specifically because we've got a little bit of an insight into your childhood. We've seen that you're both incredibly brave and hopeful that this commentary thing's going to work out. How did you find your voice commentating? And how did you develop a brand with the duo part with Dan, with Artosis?
So, first of all, when I got into casting, I did not know what I was doing. Like, if I look back at my old work, I'm so bad. I'm like, I can't believe they hired me again. Like, I guess there wasn't enough people doing this. I feel like to find your voice as a caster, you just have to keep going out there and doing it. I think doing stuff live is really important. I don't believe in like practicing a cast like at home. I tried that once. I got like 5 minutes into it. I'm like, this is weird. I'm going to not ever do this again. Dan and me, we were good friends before we moved to Korea, but we were out in this big city trying to survive. And Dan is one of the funniest people I know. And we love humor, we love comedy. And so, when we started casting, there were a lot of people that, I don't know, I guess they wanted us to be more serious or they thought we were being disrespectful. But we think that, like, our viewers have a sense of humor. There is some absurdity about
The situation.
being
Yes.
hardcore into this game
Yes.
and knowing,
Yeah.
all the bugs you can exploit to do stuff and do all these crazy things. So we thought it was important to kind of have fun and still honor the game, obviously, and try to be our authentic selves. But I think when someone tries to find their voice, it's important to be as true to yourself as you can be, and not because I've seen this with people where they go on camera and they're like a different person.
Welcome to the show.
And
This is who. Yeah,
and
I
it's
hate
exhausting.
broadcast voice.
Yeah,
I hate broadcast voice.
yeah, and it comes off as fake, and then it's almost like you're like an actor now. Now you're trying to be something that you're not. So. I think that's important, but I think the real opportunity that we had that kind of put us ahead of everybody else is we were working out of the GSL studio.
Yeah.
So everybody else was doing stuff from their bedrooms, or they'd have to get hired by one of these big events, and then there's all that pressure, right? So we were just going into a studio 6 days a week. So we were able to kind of hone our craft to the point where when we would get invited to like a big MLG or a DreamHack, we had already worked on a professional set.
Yeah.
We already kind of knew the ins and outs. So I think while other people were kind of stressed out or freaking out or
Also, first-time exposure to something like that. If you go from broadcasting at home, especially in the maybe later days, like Twitch is around, Own3D is around, things like that.
Right.
Until you've looked at a production set, until you've had producers, it is overwhelming. So I do think having the head start with it was the GOM TV days, then GSL, and all of that experience.
Yeah. Well, our show got kind of traded around by a couple different companies. But yeah, we had this set we were working on. And that I think gave us an edge. And then I think one of the things I learned really early was don't read Reddit, don't read Team Liquid. This is not if I want feedback, I can have a professional look at my stuff and give me feedback, or I can do the painful thing. I don't like how I look, I don't like how I sound, but I can sit down and look at my work and go, okay, I think I need to work on this or that. But I do see with a lot of people that do this kind of work as they get eaten alive, going or they'll respond to their critics online. And so I think one thing, for me, I think I figured this out really early on, was just don't engage with it. Just try to put out the best thing you can put out, and be happy with that. And because it's a live broadcast, you have the opportunity to reanimate yourself. If you didn't do a good job last time, we can come in this time and try to change it up and keep improving on it. So
on the topic of, let's say, broadcast, I know we've spoken a lot about sort of the wider industry, or personally, very briefly on the show. What do you think about the evolution of StarCraft broadcasts, how it has changed over the years? There are very few people that have as intimate knowledge, being a competitor, broadcaster, literally from day one. How has it changed in a 26-year life?
So, and this is, I guess, not just with StarCraft, but it's true for all the games, is the big question in esports is what is the publisher's role in this? And so there was, in my head, I call this esports fever, but StarCraft 2 got so big that then everything started becoming an esport. And some things I'm like, I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to be. I don't know if there's going to be enough of a scene for this or a demand for it. So we went from Blizzard supporting everything, and Mike and Amy Morheim, they did a really good job. They really loved StarCraft. And then Activision kind of started. They weren't fond of the way esports stuff was going, so they kind of ended up wiping out a lot of the esports stuff. And luckily, StarCraft has such a supportive scene that the fans kind of fund everything, right? So I just launched this Patreon earlier this year for a tournament that I'm producing called RSL, and the people have been very generous, and we've built a studio in Seoul and we've staffed it. So the good thing is the game never has to go away. It just depends on what kind of system of support it's going to have. And EWC has been great for StarCraft.
StarCraft is a game that will exist forever. The only question is at what scale.
Right.
Because there's an ebb and a flow to it. There's a change.
Right.
Please, if StarCraft 3 ever comes out, let's hope it.
I would love that.
See,
I would love to have StarCraft 3.
You mentioned the RSL.
Yes.
It's something that I infrequently tune into. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, I'll say. When I'm on a flight, I'll download it and watch it. Let's talk longevity. All right. So just before we talk a little bit more about the actual tournament, you're going on 2.5 decades, 3 decades being involved in the scene in games.
Yeah.
2 decades as a professional, maybe more if you really want to be specific. How do you stay passionate? Because I hear you talk about StarCraft, and I still hear that same fire that I did 15 years ago from Korea.
Well, I was just, I don't know if it's I'm really autistic or what it is. I love StarCraft. I was obsessed with RTS games when I was a kid. And if I had $1 billion, I would still play StarCraft, right? So You know, I love both the games. They're both, I think, perfect in like different ways. But you know, the benefit I have is that StarCraft creates so many unique types of games, right? You can have games where it ends in like 3 minutes. You can have games where it goes on for an hour and all the resources are mined out. We keep changing the maps. We keep
balance updates, changing the dynamic.
The balance
PvP.
updates. Yeah. So, you know, it's a fun game to kind of be part of and cast. And so, you know, and look, I've done a lot of esports titles. I've casted a lot of games. Some, you know, it was like a one-off in an event. Like we casted Tekken one time, and it was like they want us to cast Brood War, Counter-Strike, and Tekken. And I'm like, and they only wanted one pair of casters. I'm like, I guess Tekken's going to take an L here. I don't know a lot about that game, but we'll do it. So I've casted a bunch of different games. You know, some for a long time, some for a short time. But I keep going back to StarCraft, and I love it. And yeah, you know, it's a game that ages like a fine wine.
Yeah.
You know, the more that we learn about the game and its complexity, the more interesting it becomes.
Something I find very surprising personally is that I had the pleasure to work with StarCraft, both casters and talent and players last year and this year for the first time. Seeing young players like Clem is a good example of somebody who is really young and finds StarCraft 2 in today's industry.
Yeah.
Where, let's be honest, it doesn't have the same pedigree. It doesn't have the same allure that it once did. What's that like, seeing young, fresh names and talent coming up to surprise
crazy.
the balance?
I mean, when you think of how young he was when the game came out, you know, and then and to see that he's risen up in this, I think one thing that's important to note is RTS games are very much their own kind of thing.
Yep.
You know, and I love MOBAs, I love tactical shooters, I love fighting games, but StarCraft scratches an itch that I have that other games can't, and so. You know, it's funny. There's StarCraft's always, there's been a little bit of hysteria around it about like, is this the last year, or is this game dead, or is it going to go away? And it's like, I've been doing this. I'm like 41. I've been doing this since I was 15. I'm still doing it. I think it's in a good spot, and it's exciting to see new people pick it up. And I think people will still be playing. You know, Age of Empires 2 does very well as well.
Age of Empires 2 hasn't gone away at all, which is a surprise to me.
Yeah.
I saw tournaments recently being commentated, and there was a new young, I think, Canadian player that's now just taken over and is unstoppable. Wild to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think until a new RTS comes that will usurp these other games, I think that people are just going to keep playing them, you know. So I imagine before I'm dead, there'll be some other RTS game that'll come out that'll be a hit.
That's a very morbid. That's a very morbid way of phrasing it.
Well, it's just like, you know, I've been doing this for so long, but I feel like something's going to come along. But if not, you know, I've got StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, and you know. I want to
ask you a bit sentimental, maybe.
Yeah.
I've obviously praised you a lot, and I'm very grateful for the impact that you've had on commentary, and also being brave enough, like being an English broadcaster, to go to Seoul back when you did was unheard of.
Yeah.
I think in today's modern age, it's less surprising. And again, we're still talking about a very small number of people that can even do it, that are willing to, that are able to break into these broadcasts, so it's really hard. I believe it's fair to call you a pioneer. I would hope you see yourself in the same way. How do you reflect on that journey, knowing that you were just doing your thing, but there's a lot of people like me who go, thank you, look up to you.
No, I mean, I really appreciate it. I think it was a big risk, but I'll tell you, man, it was a lot of fun. I had fun the whole time I did it. It was an adventure. And, you know, I'm really happy. I'm proud of the story. It worked out. Like, we won. It worked, and we're still doing what we're doing. So
how would your life be different if you didn't find esports in StarCraft?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's hard to imagine what I would be. I think I'd be doing something in gaming, or maybe something in entertainment. I'm not so sure. You know, it's such a weird, obscure thing, and that I'm doing, and it's almost a relief to me to see other people doing it too, because it almost, when I would try to explain to people what I was trying to do back then, it's like a make-believe, silly thing, right? I'm sorry. What was the question again?
In terms of what would you be doing if it wasn't
that's
esports?
right.
But I think it's probably even a bad question, because I think you found
I think I would have ended up doing commentary no matter what, or doing something in StarCraft no matter what. And the truth is, when I was trying to get into it, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I figured there'd be something there. Yeah. And I think on some level I'm still figuring it out. Yeah. You know, like now I'm doing production stuff. I started streaming late. Yeah. I think a lot of people caught on to streaming early on, and I think I didn't quite get that because I was like doing studio stuff, and
Yep.
I'm like, well, what? This is like a webcam and someone's better. Why would I do that? I'm already.
You and me both. You
Yeah,
and
yeah.
me both.
But you know, I started streaming. I love streaming. My community is great. And you know, I'm doing what I like. I'm playing games I like. So yeah, I think I would be doing something in this space no matter what. But I want to, where I'm living, what I'm doing. I have the best job in the world. I'm the luckiest person in the world. So.
When we get to this part of the interview,
Yes.
I want to now start looking a little bit forward, right? Because we talked about childhood, we talked about early career, talked about career development. You mentioned RSL. You
Yes.
mentioned getting into broadcast. You mentioned or production side. You mentioned streaming. What is in the future? What is coming in the short term, medium term, and where is Nick Plott in 10 years?
That's a good question. So, you know, we've been doing these live productions, and then in about a month, we're going to have an offline event. So we put a big deposit down on a venue. So I want to put more live productions on my channel. You know, it's funny, like when I started streaming, I was like, oh, this is like my own little space. I can do whatever I want here. I don't have to wait for Blizzard to come tell me to do something, or even to EWC or anybody. I can kind of just put this out. And I thought, well, I already do casting. I already have done some production. Why don't I just put this on my channel, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm just doing everything. You know, I mean, I'm in control of it. So I'm going to try to explore that more and more. And just keep building that out. So I don't know, you know, where that'll take me exactly, but I'm a pretty optimistic guy, and I've been having fun the whole time I'm doing this. So I think wherever I'm at in 10 years, it's going to be still a lot of fun. Yeah.
Will it be StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 3 in 10 years?
I would love to have StarCraft 3. I would love to do another RTS game. I feel like some of my happiest memories were right when StarCraft 2 came out. The same like when I was young, when StarCraft 1 came out, I'm like, okay, what are the good units? You know, and you go, oh, they're all kind of good.
Everything's new.
Everything's fresh.
Figured out yet.
Yeah. Or you go, okay, are roaches, should I roach rush? Or then, okay, he stopped that. So now that strategy doesn't work anymore. And you're kind of building on that. And so, yeah, maybe a new RTS game comes out or some other game that clicks with me comes out. But we'll see. But
I'll tell you this. This is a personal complaint, Trevor speaking. I hate the fact that games have become easier across the board.
Yeah.
Because things like ego shooters like Quake, Unreal Tournament, Painkiller, really non-existent. Games that are dual style like StarCraft 1v1s,
Right.
the skill expression, the difficulty of the game, it breaks my heart that those industries and those competitive bases have fallen in favor of more controller-based shooters.
Yeah,
and
no,
just like falling out of vogue with RTSs.
it's a problem. I think there's a lot of NPC game designers that kind of they've cowered it away from taking risks. Like, as an example, everybody says, oh, people don't want hard games. Well, Elden Ring is like one of the highest selling games. I'll play Elden Ring. I want to be challenged. And I think the same is true for games that are very difficult. So I think there's always going to be a demand for that. And I think what it really takes is it takes the courage of a developer to know their audience well enough and to make something for someone like you or for someone like me or for people that share our interests.
I'm looking forward to, because I think with the rise of indie developers,
Yeah.
we might get our ego shooter and our RTS that'll help us in 5 to 10 years of commentary.
I think you're probably right about that.
I hope so too. Okay, listen, at the end of every episode of Origins, I have a list of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
The goal is to try and answer either your first instinct.
Okay.
If you choose to expand, great.
Yeah.
If not, I just move on to the
Are
next
these
question.
one-word answers? Or?
Pretty much.
Okay.
But you'll see. Sometimes you may want to add something. Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to start you off with an easy one. The first game that you truly loved.
StarCraft.
Yeah, not even a question. Your favorite GSL moment and why?
MVP versus Squirtle. It just went viral. It was why am I forgetting the name of the spell? The mothership? Vortex. The Vortex. Yeah, the Vortex sucking the battle cruisers down there. Yeah,
Okay, so
Archon toilet.
Archon toilet.
There's my long-winded answer.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Okay, next one. Your favorite Tastosis moments?
Oh, anything where Dan is making me cry laughing. Yeah, any moment. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Which player has helped shape StarCraft?
Flash.
Tell me why.
Being perfect at the game. Can I take that back?
Please do.
Slayer's Boxer.
Slayer's Boxer?
Yeah, for being marketable, being cool.
Okay.
Stuff. So, yeah.
Making it more mass appeal.
Take that, Flash.
I like that.
Took it back.
Hey, listen, he said it, not me. He said it, not me. Okay, now this is a hard one.
Yeah.
In one word, what does commentary mean to you?
To share.
Wow.
To share.
I'm going to leave it at that. To share.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that we brought you here today to Las Vegas is because you are one of the 2025 inductees to the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Esports Awards.
Yeah, big honor.
Congratulations, first of all. What is your gut reaction when you hear those words?
You know, it's so cool to be appreciated. You know, I think when I moved over to Korea on the other side of the world, like, you don't know what people are thinking about your work, or, you know, I told you I don't read feedback online. I'm just trying to do my thing. So it's really nice to be appreciated and be remembered. And, like, you know, the games I do aren't like the new games, you know, or maybe the biggest games, but it's really nice to be appreciated and to be remembered, and you know, to be in the Lifetime Achievement Award with all these people that I also admire and look up to. So I'm totally honored. I'm so happy to be here.
What would you say to the next generation of commentators, the next players in RTS or StarCraft, the people who are so young that it makes us feel sick, to either guide them, inspire them, or inform them of what they should be thinking about?
I think don't worry about what other people think about you. Find out who you really are and what your voice is. And if you're putting out something that you think is cool and something that you can be proud of, other people are going to find that and they're going to like it. And yeah, and don't worry about what the masses think or what the big group think is of the day. Just, yeah, find your own voice.
I only have one last opportunity or one last question for you to directly address the camera.
Yes.
If you could say something that you would want every StarCraft player, fan, viewer to hear, something from the heart, what would it be as our farewell?
I mean, thank you so much for watching my stuff. I love StarCraft, and I love you guys, and I love sharing this game with you. Yeah, StarCraft forever. Thank you so much.
Then make sure you watch RSL. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Tune into the streams, watch RSL.
Yeah, RSL and ASL.
That's it.
And GSL when it's still on.
When it's back,
Yeah.
exactly.
And my Twitch stream.
That's it. Where can we find you? Exactly.
Twitch.tv/Tasteless TV.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to cut it out. I'm going to say thank you so much. It's
Thank
an
you so
absolute
much.
pleasure. You know I'm a fan, and I hope everybody watching at home now is too, in case you weren't. We'll see you on the next episode of Origins.